There's a moment in all of our lives when we feel that spark, that deep whisper inside us that says, this is who you are meant to be. This is what you are meant to do. We call it a dream. And for a while, that dream fuels us. It gives us direction, passion, and hope. But somewhere along the way, life gets noisy. Responsibilities pile up. Doubt creeps in. And before we know it, that dream we once held so close feels like a story we left unfinished on a shelf. But here's the truth: your dream hasn't left you. It's still there, waiting for you to remember it. And remembering your dream doesn't mean chasing perfection or achieving some flawless version of success. It means reconnecting with the part of you that was brave enough to imagine it in the first place. It's about leaning into the discomfort of fear, the risk of failure, and the courage it takes to believe again. Because when you remember your dream, you're not just chasing an outcome. You're reclaiming your voice, your story, and your power. So today, I want to invite you to pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what was the dream that once set your soul on fire? And more importantly, are you ready to remember it? When we think about dreams, most of us are conditioned to see them as goals, boxes to check, milestones to reach, or achievements to proudly display. But a dream is so much more than that. A dream isn't just a destination, it's a reflection of who we are and what we value most deeply. It's not just about what we want to accomplish, but why it matters to us in the first place. That's why when people let go of their dreams or forget them entirely, it doesn't just feel like missing out on an opportunity. It feels like losing a piece of themselves. Because our dreams are tied to our sense of belonging in the world, to our ability to feel seen, heard, and alive. Think back to the first time you had a dream that made your heart race. Maybe you were a child imagining yourself on a stage, painting a masterpiece, starting a business, or helping people in a way that felt bigger than yourself. That vision wasn't random. It was a clue, a thread, something connected to the essence of who you are. And the reason it felt so powerful is because dreams are born out of meaning, not out of practicality. We don't dream about things that leave us empty. We dream about the things that make us feel alive, connected, and true to ourselves. When we pursue those dreams, we are not just chasing success, we are aligning with our purpose. That alignment is what creates a sense of belonging. Belonging isn't just about being accepted by others. It's about being true to ourselves in such a way that we no longer have to hustle for approval. A dream holds up a mirror and asks, who are you really? What do you care about enough to risk failure, judgment, or even heartbreak for? It's in that question that we discover our purpose. And yet, life has a way of pulling us off course. We start to believe that dreams are luxuries, things for the lucky or the gifted, while the rest of us are left to be realistic. So we trade that fire for comfort, that vision for security, and in the process, we dim the light that was meant to guide us. But here's what we forget: when we silence our dreams, we don't just silence our imagination, we silence the very part of us that longs for connection. Because every dream we carry is a bridge to others, to ourselves, to the life we were created to live. Our dreams remind us that we belong here with something unique to offer. They remind us that our story matters, not because it will look impressive to someone else, but because it is woven from the deepest truths inside of us. And when we choose to honor that, when we remember that our dreams are not just about success, but about meaning, we begin to live differently. We carry ourselves differently. We show up with more authenticity, more courage, and more heart, because we're no longer living just to survive. We're living to fulfill something bigger than ourselves. Life has a way of pulling us in so many directions that the very things that once set our hearts on fire start to fade into the background. When we're young, our dreams feel close, almost within reach. They feel possible, and more importantly, they feel ours. But as we grow, the weight of responsibilities begins to pile up. School, work, bills, expectations, relationships, the constant noise of comparison. And in that noise, the dream that once felt so alive starts to feel like a faint memory. Not because it wasn't real or worthy, but because we were swept up in the current of life. We don't wake up one morning and suddenly forget what we dreamed of. It's more subtle than that. It happens little by little. It's missing one opportunity and telling ourselves, maybe next time. It's listening to the voice of doubt saying, who do you think you are? It's putting our heads down to get through the day, thinking we'll revisit that dream when things are less busy, when life feels more stable, when the timing is right. But those right times rarely come. And so the dream waits quietly while we convince ourselves we'll circle back to it someday. The truth is, life is full of distractions, and most of them don't feel like distractions at all. They feel necessary. The demands of work feel unavoidable. The expectations of family feel heavy. The desire to meet everyone else's needs feels urgent. But in meeting all those needs, we often leave our own buried. We become so focused on surviving and meeting the world's standards that we forget the dream that once made us feel alive. And when we forget that dream, something inside us starts to dim. It's not always obvious. We still laugh, we still work, we still move through life. But deep down, there's a quiet ache, a sense that something is missing. That ache isn't weakness. It's a signal. It's your soul reminding you that there was something you once wanted, something that mattered to you beyond all the noise, something that wasn't about being practical, but about being whole. And yet, the more we ignore it, the harder it becomes to hear, until one day we realize we've been living on autopilot, and the dream has become so faint it feels like it belonged to someone else entirely. And maybe that's the hardest part, not the forgetting itself, but the moment we realize we've forgotten. Because that realization comes with a sting of loss, the recognition that we let life's distractions get in the way of our truest selves. But even in that sting, there's hope. Because if the dream still lingers, if it still whispers even faintly in the back of our hearts, then it means it hasn't left us. It means that no matter how distracted we've been, no matter how far we've drifted, the dream still believes in us enough to wait. When we talk about remembering our dreams, it sounds beautiful and inspiring, almost like all we need to do is close our eyes and call it back. But in reality, remembering your dream is not just about recalling what you once wanted. It's about choosing to face the parts of yourself and the world that make pursuing that dream feel terrifying. It takes courage, real, raw courage, to stand in front of your fear, your doubt, and the possibility of failure and say, I'm going to try anyway. The moment we reconnect with a dream, fear shows up almost instantly. It whispers in the back of our minds, reminding us of every reason why it won't work. You're too late. You're not good enough. You don't have the resources. What if you embarrass yourself? Fear loves to keep us safe, or at least it convinces us that staying still is safer than stepping into the unknown. But here's the thing, dreams don't live in safe places. They live on the edge of risk, in the spaces where we have to stretch, grow, and sometimes stumble. That's why courage is so necessary. Not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward with it still present. And then there's doubt. Doubt doesn't shout, it lingers. It's subtle. It makes you question whether you're capable, whether your dream matters at all, whether people will take you seriously. Doubt thrives when you compare yourself to others, when you look at the people who seem further along, more talented, more confident, and you start to shrink your own vision to something that feels reasonable. But doubt is not proof that your dream isn't real. It's proof that you're human. Every single person who has ever created, built, or changed something has wrestled with doubt. The difference between those who let it win and those who don't is courage. The willingness to keep showing up, even when certainty never arrives. Failure is the third companion in this journey. It's not optional. If you choose to remember your dream, you are choosing the possibility of failure. And that's what makes it so hard for many of us to begin. Failure stings, it humbles, and it often confirms our deepest fears about not being enough. But failure also teaches. Every time we fall short, we learn something about ourselves, our process, and our resilience. Failure doesn't erase your dream. It shapes you into the person capable of living it. So when we talk about remembering your dream, it's not some romantic act of nostalgia. It's a brave decision to step into a space where fear, doubt, and failure will walk alongside you. But here's the part that matters most. You don't need to eliminate them to move forward. You just need to carry them with you, knowing they are not stronger than your courage. Because the moment you decide to remember your dream, you are also deciding that it is worth facing everything that scares you. One of the biggest reasons people abandon their dreams is because they get tangled up in the illusion of perfection. Somewhere along the way, we start believing that if we're going to pursue something that matters to us, it has to be flawless. The art we create has to be groundbreaking. The business we start has to succeed instantly. The book we write has to land on bestseller lists. The performance we give has to leave people speechless. And if we can't guarantee that kind of outcome, we convince ourselves it's better not to try at all. But that's not what dreams are about. Dreams were never meant to be perfect. They were meant to be lived, to be stumbled through, to be reshaped and reimagined as we go. Perfection is paralyzing. It sets a standard so high that it steals the joy out of the process. You spend more time worrying about whether you're doing it right than actually doing it at all. And here's the irony in chasing perfection. We disconnect from the very thing that makes our dream powerful in the first place, our authenticity. What makes a dream meaningful isn't that it's polished or flawless, it's that it's yours. It's born out of your voice, your story, your heart. People don't connect to perfect. They connect to what's real. Resilience is what truly carries a dream forward. Because no matter how passionate you are, there will be days when it feels impossible. There will be rejection letters, closed doors, empty rooms, and moments where it seems easier to just walk away. But resilience is the ability to keep going anyway, to adapt, to rise after you've fallen, to look at failure not as the end, but as part of the path. Dreams aren't fulfilled because everything went smoothly. They're fulfilled because someone refused to give up when things got messy. When we let go of perfection and choose resilience, we give ourselves permission to be human in the pursuit of our dreams. We stop expecting the journey to be neat, and instead we allow it to be what it really is. Complicated, unpredictable, sometimes painful, but always shaping us into someone stronger and more authentic. That authenticity is what makes the dream worthwhile. It's not about performing for the world or proving ourselves to others. It's about showing up as who we truly are and saying, this matters to me. This is part of my story. The people we admire most, the creators, the leaders, the innovators, the dreamers who've built something lasting, none of them got there by being perfect. They got there by being resilient. They got there by being honest about their struggles, by letting their authenticity speak louder than their mistakes. And that's the invitation for all of us to remember that our dreams don't need us to be flawless. They need us to be real. There's something powerful that happens when you reconnect with a dream you thought you had lost. It's like a light turning back on in a room that had been dim for far too long. Suddenly, the air feels different, your perspective shifts, and the heaviness you've been carrying begins to lift. That's because dreams are not just ideas or ambitions, they are sources of hope. And when you remember them, when you allow yourself to lean back into them, you find yourself standing in a place where meaning feels possible again. Hope is not about pretending everything is perfect or ignoring the hard parts of life. Hope is about having something to move towards, something that reminds you why it's worth showing up every day, even when the road feels heavy. A dream has that power. It gives you a picture of a future that isn't here yet, but one you're willing to work for, even fight for. Without a dream, life can start to feel like endless repetition, days blurring together, tasks piling up, but no deeper reason behind them. Reconnecting with a dream interrupts that cycle. It gives you direction, something that pulls you forward rather than just pushing you from behind. When you allow yourself to remember and embrace your dream, you're not just chasing an accomplishment, you're reigniting something much deeper inside of you. It might be the hope that you really can create change, that you really do have something unique to contribute, that you are not just surviving but living with purpose. And hope is contagious. When you live with hope, you inspire others to believe in their own possibilities. People notice when someone is walking through life with a spark in their eyes, and that spark is often the quiet fire of a remembered dream. Dreams also act as guides toward meaning. Meaning isn't about everything going right or never facing obstacles. It's about feeling connected to something bigger than yourself, and often our dreams are the bridge to that connection. They remind us that we're not just here to clock in and out of life, but to create, to build, to share, to love, to leave something behind that carries a piece of who we are. When you reconnect with your dream, you begin to notice opportunities you might have overlooked, people you might not have crossed paths with, and ways of contributing that feel deeply aligned with who you are. Of course, remembering a dream doesn't mean the journey becomes easy. It doesn't erase the struggles or the doubts. But it does give you a reason to keep walking, a reason to rise after you fall, a reason to believe that what you're doing matters. And in a world where it's easy to feel lost or disconnected, that sense of meaning can change everything. Because when you live with hope, guided by a dream that feels authentic to you, you begin to see that your life is not just happening, it's unfolding with purpose.